Good morning everyone. So this will be our 5th week. Wala tayong humapansin nyo, unlike ng ibang subject, meron silang FB Live. Ang statistics walang FB Live ngayong week na to. So explain you and me sa ating lesson. Okay po. So nung mga nakarang linggo, we started discussing on hypothesis testing. Okay po, kung maaalala pa. And also rejecting hypothesis kung paano natin nire-reject using the computed value and critical value. So, yun po yung lesson natin last week. Technically, kung titingnan nyo po yung ating pong ang ating pong guide, curriculum guide, ang ating pong module for this week, for our this week will be module 8, 9, and 10. Hoping na nasa inyo yung mga module na yon. Module 8, 9, and 10. Kaso nga lang, kung binuklat nyo yung module 8, 9, and 10, 8 and 9 is just simply a recap or parang summary ng mga lessons na pinagdaanan natin, yung 8 and 9. So, I'll be focusing on 10 na lang para makamove on tayo sa bagong lesson. Okay po, imimute ko lang sa atin. Okay, so we will be focusing on module 10. So, isang module lang tayo for this week. Okay, so let's start. Mabilis lang to. Yeah. So, our module for this week, i-represent ko lang. Yan. Our module for this week is about population proportion and sample proportion. Okay po. So, liliwanagin muna natin yung mga terms na yan. Then later on, iisa-isahin natin paano kinu-compute ang population proportion and sample proportion and paano it will affect our hypothesis testing. Okay? So, let's start first with the definition ng ating mga bagay-bagay. So I have here 4 definitions that we have. Iba-iba yan. Balikan lang natin. It is an entire group of people, objects, event. Can you please tell me kung ano to? It is in the entire group of people, objects, or event which all have at least one characteristic in common and must be defined specifically and ambiguously. So ano yan? Sa mga terms na pinagdaanan natin, ano kaya yan? Any idea? Entire group.
Population po, sir.
Correct. It's the population. So, pag tinabing natin population, it is the entire group. Maaring at least may isang characteristic silang pare-pareho, pero hindi lahat ng characteristic nila ay pare-pareho. It can be defined pero masyadong malawak ang pagka-define kapag population. Number 2, it refers to any part of the population regardless of whatever it is a representative or not. Refers to any part of the population. Ano naman tawag doon?
Sir?
Ano?
Sample
Yes po?
population po.
Okay po. Sample lang. Hindi po sample population. Sample lang. You have the idea. So, yung hindi siya pinagsasama ha. The population is the entire group and a part of a population is what we call sample. Take note po lang ha. Next, number 3. This is new. It refers to a part of a population with a particular attribute expressed as fraction, decimal, or percentage of a whole population. So, ibig sabihin to, ito ay parte ng population na ini-express natin kung ilan ba sa population ang ginamit natin. Okay po. So, ang tawag po doon ay population proportion. Okay po. It refers to a population, part of a population na in-express into fraction, decimal, and percentage. Okay po. So, ang tawag natin po doon ay population proportion. And number 4, it is a proportion of individual in a sample sharing a certain trait. So, ibig sabihin, may grupo tayo ng sample. Ilan sa sample na yon ang mayroong gantong trait? At i-compare natin siya as sa number ng sample. Ang tawag naman po natin doon ay sample proportion. Oh, example, bigyan natin ha ng magandang example. Example natin ay sa population of 500, kunyari, ito na lang. Sa population of 100, okay, 100, 50 ang tinanong mo. So ano ang population proportion doon? So that is 50 over 100 or 50%. Tama po. That's population proportion. Isang parte ng population pero kinuha mo yung percentage nung kinuha mo sa population as sample. So that's 50 over 100 or 50%. Ngayon, out of the 50 na kinuha mo, 25 ang lalaki. Example, lalaki. So what is the sample proportion? Ibig sabihin, it will be 25 over 50 or 50%. Okay po ha. Pinakikita mo lang yung proportion o parte sa bawat grupo. Clear po yon? Anong pinagkaiba ng population proportion at saka po sample proportion?
Yes po, sir.
Okay po. Para magkaintindihan tayo. Let's have another example here. In Matapat City, 10% of the residents are senior citizen. A survey was conducted to 500 randomly selected senior citizens to determine if they have cell phones. Out of 500 respondents, 421 answered that they have their own cell phone. Ngayon, kung titingnan natin ito, hindi given dito ang number ng population. Walang sinabi ditong population. Pero ang binigay nila ay ang population proportion. Bakit po ang sabi? In Matapat City, 10% of the residents are senior. So sinabi agad nila na 10% out of yung buong population ay senior. So doon nagpapakita agad yung population proportion. Ngayon, doon sa population na 10%, kinuha yung 500. At yung 500 na yun, out of that 500, ay ang ginawa naman natin ay nalaman natin na may 421 na may cellphone. So, kapag hinanap naman natin yung specific na sample proportion na may cellphone, so that will be 421 out of 500. Okay po. Yan. Para maintindihan natin, the population proportion is a part of the population, particular attributes, trained, expressed in fraction, decimal, or percentage. Okay po. So, tayo ngayon will be focusing on percentage. Gagamitin natin ang percentage rather than fraction and decimal. Tandaan po ha, gagamitin natin. Pag i-represent po natin ang population proportion, let's use the percentage sign. Okay? Madali naman mahanap ang percentage sign. So, you just simply i-divide mo lang yung dalawa times 100. Okay? So, in this case kasi, hindi naman kasi pinakita ang number of population. Ang sinabi na agad ay population proportion. Ngayon, paano naman nakita yung sample proportion? The sample proportion illustrates the sample proportion as P. Tandaan, ang population natin, ang population proportion ay ang ating pong symbol ay P. Pag sample proportion po, it's P cap o P hat ang tawag natin. It's letter P na may hat, may sombrero. So ang ginawa natin, sabi natin doon kanina na 421 out of 500 sample na tinanong nila ay may cellphone. So that's 421 over 500. That's 0.84 or it can also be expressed as 84%. Okay po. Lagi po tayong 2 decimal places, then i-express natin yung decimal into percentage. Any question po? Ano ko lang si Aaron, i-mute ko lang. Yan. May question po tayo kung paano. Simpleng percentage lang po ito. Ha? Simpleng percentage lang ang ginagawa natin. So divide, then times 100. Then you will be getting the proportion. Okay? Let's have an example. Okay, let's have another example. For a class project, a grade 12 student wants to estimate the percentage of students in his school who are registered voters. From 45% of grade 12 students, he surveyed 500 students and finds that 200 are registered voter. Determine the P and compute the sample proportion. Kung mapapansin natin agad dito, wala namang binigay na number talaga ng population. So hindi na natin kailangan computein. Pero ang bigay agad ay ang population proportion, which is the 45%. Nakuha agad natin, the 45% or 45. Paano natin ngayon makikita ang sample proportion? Ang sabi dito, out of 500 na sinurvey, which is the sample, the number of sample, ilan ang lumabas na may characteristic na hinahanap? Ang lumabas sa 500 na may characteristic na hinahanap natin is 200. So that's 200 over 500. It will become 0.4, or kapag i-change natin into percentage form, that will be times 100. So that will be 40%. So our sample proportion is 40%. Our population proportion is 45%. Diba? Madali lang. Okay po. Any questions so far? Questions so far? Wala po. So malinaw na po paano hanapin si population
Wala
proportion
po, sir.
at saka si sample proportion. Okay? Ngayon, pasok tayo sa ideyang ito. Ngayon, so using the central limit theorem in testing population proportion. So itetest natin yung population proportion. Sabi natin, ano yung central limit theorem? This is not, hindi na to bago sa inyo kasi na-discuss natin to. The central limit theorem last time, ang nagsabi na kahit mababa yung sample, basta given ang standard deviation ng population, pwede na tayong gumamit ng z-test. Kasi basta napakita po na napakita ang standard deviation ng population, ibig sabihin itinitake note na niya na nasa normal distribution. Nasa normal distribution siya. Pero paano ba natin gagamitin ang central limit theorem naman ulit, na ibig sabihin ng central limit theorem dapat ma-achieve itong number of certain population para masabi natin na normal distribution ang meron tayo. Okay? Para magamit natin ang z-test. Tandaan natin, lagi natin ginagamit ang z-test as pinaka-safe. Pag no choice na tayo, saka lang tayo t-test. Kailangan natin pwedeng gamitin ang z-test. Ngayon, ano yung mga condition na dapat natin gawin? Ang unang condition, the condition should be binomial experiment. Ibig sabihin, pag sinabi nating binomial experiment ang pinag-uusapan natin, may dalawang option lang. Katulad nga nun, may cellphone o wala. It's either meron o wala. Okay po, ibig sabihin that it should be a two-directional test. Diba? Yung two direction is equal or not equal. Meron o wala. So, ibig sabihin, yun ang kailangan natin. A binomial experiment or met. Hindi pwede siya na less than or greater than. Meron o wala lang siya. Ngayon, that is their fixed number independent trials with constant probabilities, and each trial has two outcomes that is usually classified as success, which is P, and failure, which is Q. Ibig sabihin, success or fail. Meron o wala. Ngayon, paano natin ginagawa yon? Tandaan natin na kapag in-add natin ang P at saka ang Q, that will equal to 1. Tandaan, bakit po 1? Kasi yung P is a proportion. Kunyari po ang proportion natin ay, yung sabi nga natin kanina ay 40%. It take note natin kung ang may cellphone ay kunyari may cellphone ay 40%, ilan ang walang 40%, ang walang cellphone? Kung 40% ang may cellphone, ilan yung walang cellphone? 'Di ba 60% technically? Kung titingnan natin kasi it will always be 100%. Kung 40% ang wala, alam natin na ang 60% meron. Diba? So that's 40 plus 60, that will be 100. 100, kapag i-change natin sa decimal, that will equal to 1. Diba? So dapat ganun lagi. So kapag nawawala yung isang proportion, alam mo na agad yun. Kunyari, ang proportion natin ng lalaki ay 30%, ilan ang babae? That is simply 70. Kasi that's 100 minus 30, 70. Or kung gagawin natin decimal, that will be 1 minus 0.3 equals 0.7. 0.7 is equals to 70%. Clear po tayo doon. It should be a binomial experiment. Yes or no, ito, meron o wala, kaliwa o kanan, laging ganun po yun. Okay. Conditions, ito yung pinakamahalaga. Pero hindi porket binomial ang ating pong experiment ay okay na sa central limit theory at masasabi natin pwede natin gamitin ang z-test. Ang kailangan natin ay ma-meet natin ang tamang number ng ng sample. Dapat kasi ma-meet natin ang tamang number ng sample. At paano natin malalaman kung na-meet na natin ang tamang number ng sample para masabi natin siya ay in a normal distribution na. Okay? So the condition n times p is greater than or equal to 5 and n times q is greater than or equal to 5 are both satisfied so that the binomial distribution of sample proportion can be approximated by a normal distribution with u or mean is equals to np and standard deviation is the square root of npq. However, specific varies from source to source. Some authors use 10 instead of 5 depending on how good the approximation wants. So ibig sabihin, nagbabago-bago rin ang iba-ibang source. But for now, ang standard lang natin, basta marating niya yung 5. Kapag narating niya yung 5 in both condition, ibig sabihin, good as normal distribution na siya. So magagamit na natin ang z-test mamaya-maya. So kapag naging na-confirm natin na nasa normal distribution siya, pwede natin ma-compute ang kanyang mean as n times p at ang standard deviation niya as the square root of npq. Okay? Kasi hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na u equals np and standard deviation is equals to npq, the square root of npq, kapag hindi pa natin nami-meet ang certain number of sample. Okay? Diba dun sa dati, ang limit lang ang sinabi natin, at least 30 magiging c-test. Pero kapag binomial ang ating experiment, may certain amount na kailangang masunod. Paano natin malalaman kung tama or na-meet natin ang certain number of sample para maging normal distribution? So, in this case, gagamitin natin itong idea na ito. So, katulad nga kanina, balikan natin, sabi kanina ay ang P is the success and Q is the failure. So sa registered na 200 kanina, out of 500 raw, ano yung na-meet natin? Balikan lang natin ha. Ito. So out of 200, na 45%, out of 200, out of 500 na tao tinanong, 200 registered were voted. So ibig sabihin, doon sa 45% na ng estudyante na meron tayong kinuha, 500 lang doon ang tinanong mo. Okay na kaya yon? Ang tanong para malaman natin kung tama ba yon, so balikan na natin. So yung 45% ang ating pong tinanong, ibig sabihin, yung kalahati ay hindi natin tinanong. So that's 0.45 at saka 0.55. Okay, dapat ma-meet niya ang greater than 5 dapat. So ang ginawa natin, yung P natin, which is the population proportion natin. Ang population proportion natin ay 45%, that's 0.45. So that is 0.45 times 500, lumabas 225. So 225 is greater than 5, so pasok tayo doon. Tama. Pero yung ating bang failure ay pasok din. Kung ang ating pong population proportion is 0.45, alam na agad natin yung failure o hindi natin tinanong. Tandaan, yung hindi natin tinanong, kasi yung isa tinanong natin, yung merong portion na hindi tayo tinanong. Yung hindi natin tinanong, which is the 55%, 55%, so that will be 0.55 times 500, that will be 275. So 275 is greater than or equal to 5 pa rin. So ibig sabihin, parehong side ay pasok sa ating pong idea. So dahil pumasok sila sa greater than 5, so pwede natin gamitin na ang z-test. Yan nga po ang gagamitin natin. Test will be z-test statistics for proportion and denoted as z-com or z-computed value for c-value. Which is dito naman, yan ang ating pong computation, pero i-discuss natin yan next week. Next week pa yan. Ang idea lang po muna natin ngayon ay kaya ba natin kumuha ng population proportion? Kaya ba natin kumuha ng sample proportion? At kailangan alam ba natin kung tama na ang number ng proportion o hindi? So balikan natin ito. Let's have this given. Gawin natin lahat. So in the study about household income, conducted in small town, it has found out that 7% of all families in town earn less than 4,000 per month. 64 families who are randomly selected, 10 families earn less than 4,000 per month. Is the sample large enough to use the central limit theorem? Tama, okay na ba yung 64 lang? Ang tanong natin. So, bago natin pumunta sa central limit theorem, hanapin muna natin ang population proportion. Ano ang population proportion natin? Anyone? Ano ang P natin?
7% po, sir.
That's correct. That is 7%. If our population proportion is 7%, what is our failure rate? Or Q? What is our Q? Anyone?
10
What?
over 64, sir.
No. RQ, not RP hat. Ang tinatanong ka pa lang, this is the success rate, which is 7%. Kasi siyang ginamit mo sa sample. Ano yung failure rate natin?
93.
That's 93%. Kasi that's the Q. Ngayon, ano yung P hat natin? P hat or sample proportion. That will be 10 over 64. That's correct. What is 10 over 64? Pag divide natin, 10 divided by 64 is 15.625 or equals to 0.16 or 16%. So that is our P hat, okay, or sample proportion. The question now, papasok ba to sa central limit theorem? So ang gagawin natin, itetest natin both sides. So let's test first our success rate, which is 7. 7, which is equals to 0.07, kung gagawin natin. At ang 93 natin, which is 0.93. Okay, let's try first our P. Our P, so that will be NP should be greater than or equal to 5. Dapat ang makukuha natin. Yan dapat ang makukuha natin. So let's try to compute. That will be 64 times 0.07. is equal, yan nga ba? So, 5. So, 64 times 0.07 is just
4.48.
4.48, which is less than or equal to 5. In this case, kita nyo na agad na hindi siya pwede, hindi siya papasok sa central limit theorem kasi masyado siyang mababa. Ibig sabihin, kulang pa yung sample na kakailanganin natin. Though, kapag kinompute naman natin yung NQ, compute nga natin yung NQ. So that is 64 times 0.93. 64 times 0.93. Pasok naman siya. This is 59.52 is greater than or equal to 5. Pasok naman siya. Kaso nga lang, itong success rate natin, tinatawag natin a population proportion, masyadong mababa. Ibig sabihin, hindi enough yung 7% as kuhanin natin as sample. Okay? So, para masabi natin na normal distribution na siya. Okay? Kailangan natin itaas ang number of samples natin. Or itaas natin ang kung ano man. Is it either the percentage or the number of samples para makarating man lang tayo sa greater than 5. Okay? Clear po? So, in this case, is the sample large enough? Tama na ba yung 64 lang? Hindi po. Kasi hindi niya narating yung 5. Clear po tayo? Question? Okay. So, yun lang ang kailangan nyo malaman for today. Kailangan nyo malaman paano hinahanap ang P, ang Q. P is the population proportion. Q is our failure rate. P hat is our sample proportion. At kailangan nyo malaman din whether the sample is large enough for the central limit theorem. Any questions so far? Okay po. So, wala na. So, that concludes our topic for today. I'll be sending na lang kung anong activities ang sasagutan nyo sa inyo pong tingnan na natin. Ate lang. Stop natin to. Lapas ako dito. Let's try this one. Clear ko lang to. Here. Okay. So, ang sasagutan nyo po ay, para tayo maliwanag, this one. For this is module 10. Look for module 10. Okay. So, let's start with what's more. Activity 3, I can. So, ito lang naman ay kukomputin nyo po ang P or identify the P at saka po yung P hat. Okay? So, P or P hat. Okay? Next is this one, 4-point fast break. So, you just have to compute for the sample proportion or P hat. Lima lang yan. P hat. Ito yung X, ito yung N. So, solve for the sample proportion. Simple lang yan. Okay. And last one is this one. On my own, so ang kailangan nyo lang sabihin is to check, kailangan nyo ipakita sa akin at patunayan whether enough na ang sample or hindi. Dapat mapakita nyo na enough na siya or hindi. Okay po. So, kailangan may computation para ma-support kung enough or hindi. Yun lang po ang sasagutan natin. Okay, so thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you po.
Bye-bye.
Bye po.
Hope wala
Thank
nang
you po,
question.
sir.
May question kayo? Wala?
Wala. Sir, dun po sa on my own, not enough and enough po yung
Not
sasagot.
enough or enough, pero dapat ay may computation to support your answer.
Apa. Thank
Okay.
you po.
Dapat ipapakita nyo kung less than or greater than 5 siya. Ha? In both NP and NQ. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.